All right, let's go. What could make me look like a bigger jerk? Smoking this. I know that, but I don't care. Here we go. Forget that. I just ordered this 2 hours ago. You can't find that around here. I grew up with this in Suicide Falls, Missouri. Just gravy for biscuits and gravy, sausage gravy. And I really don't understand. 2 hours ago, it's at how does this at my front door? I must sound insane to some of you, but I've never had anything delivered in 2 hours that I ordered over the internet. So it happens all the time. And do I sound like an idiot? I order stuff every day, but it doesn't come in 2 hours. And of all things, yes, that Pioneer biscuit gravy. Probably the biggest story of the day is China and Saudi Arabia. Of course, we arm Saudi Arabia. It's perfect for the Chinese. And I had one general tell me a couple of years ago, we should have started bombing with China and not stopped because they're coming for us. And of course, those of you that are awake may think that as well. I don't know if it's true, but that's what this general told me. Okay, so normal shenanigans here. I'm going to scrap them because I was in all over France, into Nice, into Monaco with a band called the Moody Blues. And I happened to meet up at Café de Paris with Peter Greenberg. Peter, let's bring him on right away. Peter, how are you?
I'm good, man. Nice
all
to
right.
see you.
So, yeah, man, tell us about Café de Paris. What was that place? And then we're going to get into something really blockbuster here, like really blockbuster. But go ahead.
Well, Café de Paris used to be across the street from the Hotel de Paris.
Yeah.
Right across the street from the casino for those people who remember all the James Bond movies. And it's one of the only cafes in Monaco that really does Monegasque dishes. Mm-hmm. And it's really cool. We had a great time.
We had a great time. And I have never met anyone in my life that held my attention like you. And I'm going to give you the question, and I'll let you go. And he has a spiel. It's a story oft told, I imagine, by you, Peter. But I also hung out with Christian Moore, who is Roger Moore's son. Roger Moore was my James Bond many times on the Man Cow show. And this kid is charming. And all the women of Monaco and all over France said, well, he's the most handsome guy in Europe. And, man, he hosted, like, pulling out 1945 bottles of red wines and just really hosted us properly. It was incredible. Monaco is incredible. And you can really see that they have an immigration policy, right? You can see the difference the second you walk into Monaco.
Well, the immigration policy is they don't want anybody there.
The cheapest, Peter, the cheapest bedroom I saw, the cheapest apartment, one bedroom. We talked about this, right? It was 5 of my houses.
Oh, yeah.
5 just to start. And we're talking a one-room studio.
And you may have remembered this. You don't get to Monaco unless you go through some tunnels. And every one of those tunnels is wired. Every one of those tunnels has cameras. They know exactly who's coming in, and they know exactly who's going out. So should you commit a crime in Monaco, they got you.
Well, and we were right by, speaking of James Bond, the casino that's been in several Bond movies. And do you know off the top of your head what they are?
Well, Casino Royale.
Of course. Yeah.
That's one. Remember, they did 2 Casino Royales.
Yeah.
So it was in both of them.
The first one was just unwatchable. But
it was.
Yeah. Then the one with Daniel Craig may be the best Bond movie there is. But anyway, so you sat down at lunch, and we said Lockerbie, and you know a little bit about this.
Yeah.
And I want to give a little bit of setup of why this is so interesting to me. Is a really good friend of mine, a guy I worked on a book with, a New York Times bestseller called Dad, Dames, Demons, and a Dwarf. Really, in many ways, probably the person I'm closest to in this lifetime, was sitting on the plane, and God told him to get off the plane. My friend John Calkins. And he got off the plane, and he told me that over the years, several people have investigated him, like, why did you get off that plane? And then our friend Sean had who we had lunch with in Monaco, had a friend that was a stewardess back when they were called stewardesses. And she called in sick, so they investigated her too and found out, no, she was getting her appendix out, but and then quit. So Peter, you got to be biting at the bit. You got to start off with who, what, where, when, why. What was Lockerbie? Let's just start there because people may not know. I follow this because I had a friend that was involved, as I said. But go ahead.
In order to understand Lockerbie, which, by the way, next Thursday is the 34th anniversary December 21st, 1988. So 4 days before Christmas. But in order to understand Lockerbie, you got to go back to July of 88. There was the Iran-Iraq War. And you remember America was reflagging all the oil tankers in the Straits of Hormuz, and we were protecting them with the U.S. Navy. Well, on that particular day, there was a destroyer called the USS Vincennes. It was patrolling, and they picked up on their radar a blip belonging to an Iranian airliner. It was a commercial airliner going from Iran to Dubai with women and children on board to go shopping. And the destroyer's commander, even though he knew, no doubt about it, that this was not a military plane, he launched a missile and he shot it down.
No, wait a minute. You said at launch they bleep something, or they
yes, they squawk. So on your screen,
yeah.
You know exactly what the altitude of the plane is, what the plane is, what the airline flight number is. It was a commercially scheduled plane.
And we brought it down, or this guy brought it down,
yeah,
knowing that it was filled with women and children and families.
He didn't know who was on the plane. Well, we found out very quickly. And the Iranians went nuts. And they decided they were going to avenge this terrible act. And so they went out between July 5th of 88 and December 21st of 88. So in that 6-month period, they went out and assembled a cast of characters. And isn't it interesting that just before we were going to do our show today,
yes,
they made another arrest.
This is huge.
Well, maybe not. Of another Libyan. The Libyans who have been arrested here were like the groupies. They didn't do very much. Now, people forget, this case is not a U.S. case. It's a Scottish case. 270 people were killed, 259 on the plane, 11 on the ground in Lockerbie. And the Scottish Lord Advocate, their equivalent of the U.S. Attorney General, he entrusted the lone constable of Lockerbie to investigate. This is a guy who had the smallest police force in the United Kingdom, and overnight he went from the smallest police force to the largest police force ever assembled, short of 9/11. And it took him about 2 years to figure out who did what, where they were from, and guess who? Well, we're talking about 23 separate individuals. Germans, Syrians, Lebanese, Iranians, Libyans, Jordan, Czechs, Swiss, Swedes, and these Libyan guys we just have heard about over the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that before he knew where they were, he knew who they were, but they didn't have the tools to get them out. They couldn't do those things.
Yeah.
And so every once in a while, somebody comes up on the radar, right? 34 years later, and they nail this guy. But he's being described as the bomb maker. Not even close. He may have handled the bomb, but guess what? The bomb maker was Jordanian.
Yeah. We needed it to be Libyans politically, right? That's why it's Libyans, because America wanted it to be Libyans.
It's a possibility.
Yeah.
The real problem with this story is we forget what happened in July of 1990 in the midst of this investigation. Iraq invades Kuwait, and George H.W. Bush needs to put together a global coalition of armies to fight them. He couldn't get the Israelis for all the obvious geopolitical reasons. So he went to be partnered with the other army in the region that was the best equipped and best trained army in the Middle East. People forget they were our partners, the Syrians.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at that moment, the Lord Advocate of Scotland is closing in on all these guys, many of whom are Syrians. And when the U.S. heard that, our then Attorney General, strongly recommended coincidence here, Bill Barr, goes to the Justice Department and they indict 2 Libyans. And when that happened, the Scots were so angry, they secretly indicted 21 other people in absentia through the FBI out of Scotland. And that's where the investigation essentially stopped for a long time.
Peter,
Yeah.
Peter, who are you? I mean, tell people who you are, and I want to tell people, stick with us because this gets very fascinating. And we're just getting you set up for the good stuff. But
Well, I'll introduce myself as a journalist. I've been a journalist all my life.
Yeah.
I was a correspondent for Newsweek as an investigative reporter for many years. Then went to Good Morning America, then to the Today Show for 14 years, and for the last 14 years at CBS News.
And you had a little TV show. You were head of Paramount. You had a TV show called MacGyver that was yours.
Yeah.
And some movies. I looked them up. Give me, what was the biggest movie?
Well, the biggest movie has the notoriety that it was only aired once because it was so controversial.
The Day After?
No. John Ritter and Ned Beatty, both of them were no longer with us. ABC came to me after I did the first movie and said, we're going to give you a blind commitment. This never happens. So to do any movie I want. And so I come home, it's a Friday night, trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And they had just installed my first cable TV. And remember the box, you hit the buttons?
Sure.
So I'm sitting at home, hitting all the buttons. And who did I end up with? Every TV minister. And I went, oh my God.
Oh, that's right. I remember that. I remember this movie. Yes.
So we made a movie.
A parody of evangelicals, and it got.
Well, it wasn't a parody. It was an expose.
Mm-hmm.
John Ritter and Ned Beatty in a movie called Pray TV. But now I'm going to tell you why it only aired once. Because Ned Beatty, who was an amazing actor.
Sure.
We gave him, in those days, the magazines of cameras for movies held 10 minutes. You may remember the famous scene in Goodfellas in the back of the Copacabana where Scorsese shot without a cut, him walking, Ray Liotta going in the kitchen, right?
Yeah.
So we gave Ned Beatty a 10-minute sermon and never cut. It was one camera following him around the stage. And in this sermon, he went after women, gays, blacks, the Equal Rights Amendment. He went against Jews, you name it. And then at the end of the sermon, and we got a dummy number from AT&T to Chiron on the screen. At the end of the sermon, he said, and if you believe with me that we should sweep them out, I want you to pray with me. And there comes the number to donate. There you go.
Yeah.
And all hell breaks loose because America tried to donate.
They called to complain. Oh,
no.
No?
They called and they got a recording. It was a non-working number. So what did they do? They called the local affiliates and said, we want to give money. How do we do this? The affiliates didn't know what to do. So then the TV ministers knew they had the power because they bought so much airtime on local affiliates that they went to the local affiliates and said, if you run this movie again, we're pulling all our airtime. And there you have it. It only aired once.
John Ritter, I had several times. Probably the last time was for Sling Blade. He was friends with Billy Bob. But I just love John Ritter. Okay.
He was a gentleman.
So folks, here's where it gets interesting. We're talking about Lockerbie. I'm going to get into holiday travel too. And Peter, did you make so much money off MacGyver that now you can just dick around all over the world? Is that what the true story is?
I wish that was the truth. No. The person who made the most money off MacGyver will surprise.
Fonzie.
Right. The
Fonzie.
Executive producer of MacGyver was Henry Winkler.
You got him to stay with Happy Days, and you'd let him do his own show, whatever show he wanted. He came up with MacGyver and made a ton of money.
To this day.
Wow. Good for, and what a great guy he is, huh? The Fonz. Come on. Okay. Let's get back to this, Peter. And I do want a few little holiday travel things because you're the world's #1 expert. But before we get to that, so Lockerbie is a thumbnail. It's tiny. This guy that's the head of the police force there goes there to retire. Should we say that you had Sean Connery signed up and he would have been great? Wait till you hear this. So listen to this movie, folks. Here we go. And this is why I'm here. This is why you're here tonight. So
well, obviously it's a great movie because here's the
it's never been done.
Right.
But Peter, hang on. I want you to start with the farmer.
Oh, okay.
But is there something you need to say before you go there?
No, I'm just going to tell you guys what the opening of the movie is because it's exactly what happened. It's December 21st, 1988. It's about 6:30 in the evening. Actually, it's about 6:48 in the evening. As you know, in Scotland at that time of the year, it gets dark about 3:30. And so Mr. and Mrs. Johnson are sheep farmers. They live about 20 miles outside of Lockerbie. He's already put the sheep away for the night because it had been raining for 2 days, very muddy. And he's in the back watching TV in his little den while his wife is making dinner. And then something unbelievable happens. I'll give you the percussion. He hears this. He doesn't know what it is. It's coming from outside. Animals have been put away. So he puts on his big boots, gets his flashlight, doesn't tell his wife. And as he opens the door, his phone rings and his wife picks up the phone. Who's calling her? Their neighbor from across a 2-lane county road who's shrieking. So what she hears on the phone, he doesn't hear. And what he's about to see, she doesn't see. As he opens his door, what is in his backyard? 44 passengers from that plane, still strapped to their seats, buried up to their necks in mud.
Oh, dear Jesus.
Yeah. So now his wife is screaming.
So, the impact was so severe that they're up to their heads.
Oh, absolutely.
And go ahead, Peter. Go ahead.
And so now his wife is screaming for him to come to go see their neighbors who are freaking out. So they walk across this 2-lane road, and in the distance they see lights and they hear sounds of people talking. And as they get closer, what is it? It's the cockpit of the 747 with the radios on and all 3 pilots dead. And at that precise moment, keep in mind, this plane was at 31,000 feet when it exploded. So the wings blew off. They were full of fuel. The left wing at that moment, the engine's still whining, full of fuel, craters the town, cuts off electrical, gas, and telephone, kills 11 people on the ground. And here's this constable, his name is John Boyd, who had worked in some very tough precincts and had decided for the last year and a half of his career, he was going to work in the one town where nothing ever happened.
They're sheep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Lockerbie.
In an instant, it becomes the biggest murder investigation in the history of the world. And he's in command.
And nobody wants to, and the story goes on from there. Nobody wants to help him. Peter, I'm gonna ask you, the debris field was how big and how did they get the clue?
Oh, about the bomb?
Yeah.
Well, they knew it had been a bomb because they saw the way the metal was striated with the telltale signs of Semtex chemical explosives on the inside of the fuselage pushing out. Now, that was different than TWA Flight 800 because that didn't work that way. But that's another story. But you know right away, in any accident investigation,
they knew it was a blown out. So it was something inside the plane that blew up. Okay.
Right. So the debris field, because of wind and because of altitude, was 845 square miles. And
a debris field of 845 square miles. So
this constable called all the other county constables together and said, get the boys. That's the Boy Scouts. And they assembled a few hundred of these kids. They gave them blue bags for body parts and white bags for evidence. They gave them knee pads. They put them at arm's length and then said, start crawling.
Crawl across Scotland and pick up anything.
And they did.
And
about 4 months later.
Wow.
Yeah. This kid comes in to see the constable, and on the tip of his index finger, it was no bigger than this right here. He said, I found this in a field where I found some other debris, and it was a little piece of plastic with some numbers on it, and had a piece of fabric on it. He said, does this make any sense? They did the analysis. That was the circuit board of the Toshiba boombox where the bomb was. But what was the piece of fabric? And that's what led them to the Libyans, because they did the chemical analysis and found out the piece of fabric was manufactured in southern England at a clothing manufacturer that made sweaters. So they went down there. The constable did and said, "Did you make these sweaters?" "Yeah, we made lots of them." "Who'd you sell them to?" "One store in southern England and one store in Malta named Mary's Place."
Mm-hmm.
So they could easily rule out the store in England. He flies to Malta and he goes to Mary's Place and he walks in and he talks to the shopkeeper. He said, "About a year and a half ago, did you sell a lot of sweaters here?" And the guy said, "Well, actually, I did. These two guys came in and they wanted to buy all the sweaters. They
Wow.
didn't care what size. It was like they wanted to pack a bag." And he said,
Bingo.
"You know?" He goes, "Absolutely, I know. Because in Malta, everybody knows everybody." Who are the two guys? The first two Libyans that got arrested. What was their job in Malta? They were the ground agents for Libyan Arab Airlines.
Mm-hmm.
So they got the bomb, they bought the sweaters, they put it in the suitcase, and they tagged it on a Libyan Airlines flight from Malta to Frankfurt, where it connected to, guess what? Pan Am 103. And there you have it.
And one more story, and then we'll end. At least this topic. And they just arrested a guy yesterday. I mean, this is fortuitous that you're on. So they track these sweaters to this apartment where the bombs were made. And we're talking about this Scottish guy that's ready to retire. He's now got the biggest case on earth. And there's a lot more to it, folks. And you'll see it in Peter's movie when it gets made. We think Colin Firth is going to do the. So, but what this guy goes through, nobody wants to help him. Because Germany doesn't want it to be their problem. Is it an Islamic? You said basically no. It was just a revenge thing against America. But was it an Islamic thing?
Well, Libya helped to coordinate it, no doubt about that. But they were not a big part of the deal. They just assembled this cast of characters.
Right.
The Germans really assembled the bomb.
Okay, so they tracked these sweaters to that apartment.
Well, not the sweaters. They found out about this German gang that the German police arrested 3 days before the bombing.
Mm-hmm.
So the constable goes to Germany and he said, "You arrested these guys?" "Yeah." "What did you do?" "Well, we let them go." "You let them go?"
Wow.
"Well, did you ever search the apartment where you arrested them in?"
Mm-hmm.
"No." "What'd you do with the apartment?" "It's been padlocked for 2 years." He said, "Can I go see it?"
Sitting there for 2 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And they said no. He finally gets a low-level cop to go against his superiors. They get the big metal cutters. They cut the padlock. They open the door to an apartment that's been sitting there untouched for 2 years. And what's sitting on the windowsill?
Mm-hmm.
Another Toshiba boombox bomb waiting to go off. So now he calls the German police and says, "Guys, you better get over here. We need to take this back." And the Germans go, "Oh, we'll take it." He says, "No, don't take it. It's unstable. Let me get my guys in here." The German said, "This is not your territory. It's ours. We're taking it." They take it downstairs. They put it in their car. It drives about 500 feet and blows up and kills 2 Germans.
He said, "Don't take the boombox.
Right.
We're in charge." The Germans were in charge, took it, and 2 cops got blowed up.
This investigation has gone on for 34 years. Amazing.
Look, I fly a lot,
Yeah.
almost every weekend, and it always crosses my mind what a horrible death a plane crash would be. You don't think so?
Well, if you're at 31,000 feet
Yeah.
and the plane blows up, that's instant decompression. And you will be unconscious within 30 seconds. That plane dropped in about two and a half minutes. So nobody was dead, but they weren't feeling anything when they hit.
So they were all passed out, all the way to the earth.
Same thing like TWA Flight 800.
That's reassuring. I mean, you're not awake and screaming all the way to the ground.
No, that's a bad movie.
And how long would that fall have been?
About 2.5 to 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And
they just disintegrate.
Well, because it loses the air. The plane is dropping at such a speed, it loses its aerodynamic ability to fly.
Yeah.
So parts are being just ripped off.
Okay, you're a travel expert. Let's go on to we'll just 2 more minutes, 3 more minutes, and you'll go about your day. You have a show on WGN, correct?
I do.
Let's hit it.
It's called Ion Travel. It's on every weekend. We do it from a different location in the world every week. When I saw you, we were doing it from Cannes in France.
Mm-hmm. Boy,
And
what a lovely area.
And the week before we were in Saudi Arabia, and the week before that, we were in the Antarctic.
And you like Saudi Arabia?
I do. Now listen, don't get me started on MBS and the Khashoggi situation, but as a country and a people, 70% of their population is under the age of 35. That's what's driving the change.
Yeah. I told you my experiences in Jordan. They say things they have to say, I suppose, but I found them to be.
Well, I have to disagree with you.
No. You can't disagree with me.
I just did.
You can't though, Peter, because I'm telling the truth. I mean, they say things that I don't really appreciate because they can't openly love their neighbor, but when the cameras aren't on or the mics aren't on, they seem like pretty chill people actually. Where some of the others were a little more anxious to go to war.
There has never been a Middle East
generalizing,
peace,
but yeah.
I know. But there's never been a Middle East peace that wasn't brokered through Jordan.
No, that's I'm complimenting them. I'm complimenting them.
Yeah.
Anyway, the best airline right now is what?
If you give me the route, I'll give you the airline.
Okay, bad question. Tell me what rewards program is not a ripoff? Which airline?
The only one that I think makes sense is Southwest.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
The airlines make more money from their frequent flyer program than they make as airlines.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, American Airlines mortgaged their Advantage program in the largest single transaction in the history of the airline. They got $10 billion.
So is Americans program bad? Is it a ripoff?
I think
they push it. They push it when you fly.
Of course they do, because we're all addicts.
Mm-hmm.
We want to get mileage for everything short of breathing. But it's harder to earn the miles now, and it's really hard to redeem them. So the problem is, do you know how many unredeemed miles there are right now? Miles that you've earned, that I've earned?
Billions.
How many?
Billions. You're
not going to the Showcase Showdown.
No, tell me. Trillions.
32 trillion.
32 trillion miles that are unredeemed.
Have been earned and have not been redeemed. And the airlines don't care because they control the redemptions. So the average redemption at every airline is only 8%. I like to joke that mafia loan sharks don't get that rate of return.
What's the worst airline? You want to have to tell you the route again? What's an airline you won't fly?
I fly every airline because I have to.
How would you rate Delta these days?
Delta's getting better. They did okay during the pandemic. You may remember they were the ones who blocked the center seat when other airlines didn't. But the problem is they paid off too many people to leave, and then they got hit with a huge staff shortage, and their on-time performance and a lot of other things suffered over the last year and a half. They'll get back, but right now, airfares are through the roof. If you want to redeem a frequent flyer mile program, I saw one the other day that should have had 160,000 miles for a first-class redemption.
Mm-hmm.
Delta wanted, fasten your seatbelt, 749,000 miles.
Whoa! For one ticket.
Yeah.
740,000 miles.
Yeah. Absurd.
That's it's just a scam. It's just a scam at this point. I'm going to double in the middle of next year. Should I book it now or then?
When you say the middle of next year, when?
June of next year.
When in June?
When in June? Early on. I think the 3rd of June.
Okay, if it's early on, you can book it in February. You'll be fine.
Okay. What else I want to ask you? Any other, this is a cheeseball question. Christmas travel, Home Alone. I see everybody running through the O'Hare Airport in my mind right now.
Listen, for me, you know what? For Christmas and New Year's, I remember when I grew up begging to be able to stay up late. Now I'm forced to. So for me, I watch, you're going to laugh, I watch Love Actually, and I watch It's a Wonderful Life. And when I was growing up, I'm in New York right now. My mom had a set of Revereware. Remember Revereware? The
I
copper
don't.
bottom pots and pans.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
When we were allowed, we'd watch Guy Lombardo and
I
his Royal
remember.
Canadians
I remember, man.
from the Waldorf Astoria.
I remember.
When the ball dropped, I was allowed to go in the kitchen, get a big ladle, metal ladle, and the pan,
And
open the
bang.
window, and bang the hell out.
Yeah. My
You know
parents
what?
did that.
I'm going to do it again this year.
I love it. The old Guy Lombardo song I love is "Enjoy Yourself." Do you remember that one?
I do.
Enjoy yourself. It's later than you think. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself. It's later than you think. And it's late for us. Peter, I really enjoyed your company. You are a great conversationalist, an excellent host. Thank you for hosting us in Monaco. Congratulations on your WGN show.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm working on some stuff, and I want to have you back on again. Any other tips you want to best cruise line? You told me.
Well, Silver Sea's not bad.
Silver Seas.
Oh yeah.
Are you a Viking fan? The river cruises. I've done those.
Yes, they've done a lot of good work with the river cruises. However, you got to watch out for the water levels, right?
Yeah. No, I have to tell you, 2 times we found ourselves. Now imagine you're going down the Rhine River, or you're going through Vienna, and all of a sudden you have to get off the boat and drive for a couple hours.
Yep.
Because the river is low.
We're dealing with water levels at certain times of the year that they should never have that problem. I'm worried.
My dream forever is an around the world cruise.
Well, that's 180 days.
Yeah.
And here's the interesting thing. It's the most expensive ticket in the cruise business.
Yeah.
The minimum on any cruise line for around the world cruise is $70,000 per person, 2 people to a cabin. Now, here's the fun part. They sold out 2022. They sold out 2023. Wow. They sold out 2024. And by a week from today, they'll sell out all of the cruises for 2025. People are spending money that you cannot believe.
Is it worth it?
If you have the time, absolutely.
Someday. I got kids to put through college, so I'm booked for the next 4 years. But after that, I have found that airline travel is getting worse and worse, and flights are routinely bumped or late. And anyway, it just seems like it's getting third world. But you say that's not true?
No, it is true. And we've become, in the eyes of many airlines, nothing more than self-loading cargo. And so for everybody watching me right now, if you're making your reservation online, don't just go by the fare. Go by the connect time, because you'll get a low fare with a connect time of 33 minutes.
Good luck.
That's suicidal. You can't even get off the plane in 33 minutes because all the planes are full. Give yourself, at the minimum, 90 minutes, because if you don't, the next flight you want to get on is also going to be full, and you're not going to get on it.
I have a, should I give my travel agent's number or not, Peter?
What was that?
Should I give my travel agent's number or not?
That's, I'm not going to touch that.
Well, I'll tell you, I can't, they used to be a dime a dozen, and you cannot find a good travel agent. I'm going to give you his number if you want to write it down. And I'll just tell you what I do. I say where I got to be, and he knows that I don't want to get up, and I don't want to be at the airport before 11 a.m., no matter where I'm at. And I need enough time. He was with me the other day, running me through the airport. Okay, turn left here. You'll see a Chick-fil-A. Take a look. The guy's incredible, and he can book everything. And I just think it's a lost art. Yeah, go ahead, Peter. What?
Here's the thing about travel agents.
Yeah.
Everybody thought they were dying. They're not. The pandemic allowed to prove their worth. They became advocates, get people refunds. They were able to save the day. So the bottom line is, if you can find a good travel agent, use them.
I got a great one, and I'm telling you, okay, what do we do? Well, there's no more flights tonight. You're staying in Nashville. I don't want to stay in Nashville. Get me a car. Tried to get me a car, and he, had transportation set up and got me to the hotel, and we were fine. But when you're in that rushed experience, when you're bumped and you're standing at the airline, and I remember Joel Osteen, the TV preacher, saying to me, and I was that guy, was just United. You know my line about United, Peter. I didn't tell you my line about United because I think you said something nice about United, but I have a line that I said for 20 years you understand Chicago is United. And I said, if you really hate human beings, if you really hate people, if you really look at your fellow man and just think, God, I hate them. Hell won't be so bad if there wasn't people there. If you really hate people, United Airlines is where you should work because they were just and the other one is Popeye's chicken. Maybe it's just me, but when I walk into a Popeye's, man, they're just anyway. What's my point?
What's that? Saying is, the next time you board United Airlines and they're serving Popeye's chicken, you're in deep trouble.
Oh, you're in shit. You're in the deep shit. Yeah. Where was I going with this? I will do anything to avoid United, but where was I going? I don't know. I don't know what the point is. Just to not have to. Joel Osteen said, "What are you going to do? You walk up to that counter and they're looking at you. Planes, trains, automobiles. What are you going to do? You're going to get all upset. You're sick. They don't care. I mean, they don't care. You're just killing yourself, man. Cal, calm down. Yes.
The best scene in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was not John Candy saying they're not pillows. The best scene in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was Steve Martin and Candy at the rental car counter. Go back and watch it.
It's a great scene. I just watched it. Have you ever heard the theory that the big suitcase that John Candy is pulling around?
Yeah.
Remember the big steamer trunk?
Yeah.
That his wife's in there. People say if you watch the movie with that in mind, it's very clear that John Candy's wife is in there. And I think that's ridiculous. It's insane. And the other one is Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. That's another stupid thing people always say to me.
True. That's
not
true.
A Christmas movie. I did watch The Bishop's Wife with Cary Grant the other night on TCM. Never seen it. And it's just sweet, beautiful movie. They don't do those really anymore. I saw Age of Adeline. I thought that was that's a Harrison Ford movie.
Well, listen,
I thought that was a sweet movie. Yes.
Now that you've been in Monaco, you have two movies you have to watch.
Okay.
The Barefoot Contessa.
Okay.
And Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Rupert the Monkey Boy.
There you go.
Barefoot Contessa with who?
Everybody. Ava Gardner.
Yeah.
Humphrey Bogart. Amazing movie.
Well, you had me at Ava.
Yeah.
You had me at Ava. All right, brother. Do you have a website you want to hit?
Sure. It's the most imaginative name. It's petergreenberg.com.
Uh-huh. And you're and Vietnam, my friend Anthony Bourdain, God rest his soul. You want to hear an interesting Bourdain story?
Sure.
He was a friend of mine, and I guess there's a new documentary out, and they were saying that he was crazy about Asia Argento, and people are careful not to blame her, but he was insane about her, and she was in magazines with other guys another guy, and it upset him. I mean, that's a fact. And he watched this movie with Chuck Bronson called Violent City, and it's about a guy that just this is just my opinion, Peter, but it's about a guy that he gets constantly screwed over by this girl, and in the end she has to go. I think for Anthony it was either her or him. I just think he couldn't live. That's what I came to. But he said Vietnam was the best food on earth.
It's pretty close.
And I haven't done it, and I've wanted to do it. I was going to do it with Anthony at some point, but that can't happen now. So is it as good as they say?
It is.
Yeah. France is the culinary capital of the world still?
From a mature destination point of view, absolutely.
Yeah. Most dangerous place?
Here's the deal.
Yeah.
Remember the scene in Apocalypse Now when Martin Sheen comes into a firefight and he goes, "Who's in control?" And the guy goes, "Nobody."
Oh.
That's the most dangerous place. So I'll go to any country in the world as long as I know who's in control. So parts of Chechnya, I'm not going. Parts of Somalia, I'm not going. Camden, New Jersey, I'm not going. But the point is, it's about who's in control.
Boy, I loved last year. I loved the folks of Hungary. They were a little bit Eastern Blockish at first, but once they warmed to you, God, what lovely food, lovely people,
and very filling food.
Oh yeah, heavy meats and sauces and all right, brother, folks. We got to get this movie done, Peter. I want to help you. Whatever I got to do. That's a hit movie. How many bodies did this guy have in his yard? 44 bodies buried up to their head. That's the impact.
Yeah. Terrible.
Do you feel like justice has been done? Not at all.
Not even close.
Not even close. How many people are out there that got
more.
off?
21 more.
21 more.
Yep. And we're 34 years later.
Good night, Peter. Good night, everybody.
You got it, Echo.